Hi and welcome. I'm going to talk a little bit now about what's happening in the news in relation to residential property investment, and also I'm going to talk through what we're seeing in the marketplace generally. The first article, written by a newspaper that shall remain nameless, begins with a G and ends in Ardian, says that house prices are due to drop again as Halifax says that first-time buyers are switching to smaller homes. Well, according to most of the indices, house prices have probably dropped about 3-4%, something like that. I think that may be true as an average across England. However, at the coalface, around here, around the East Midlands, I think you can probably get deals done maybe 10% cheaper than you could do previously. When I say previously, that's probably a year ago. But if you look back to the beginning of the pandemic, it probably went up from 2020 to, I don't know, mid-22. They probably went up 15-20%. So actually they're still above where they were at the start of the pandemic, which is quite interesting. Obviously, base rate has gone from 0.5% to 5.25%, which is an absolutely massive increase. So over 10 times it's gone up. Landlords are now paying mortgage rates of maybe 6 or 7% for a 2-year deal, and homeowners maybe in the 5% range. So, you know, that's really significant. So that is having a knock-on effect to affordability. Affordability is becoming stretched. That's a rather large understatement. The graph I'm looking at now, which has been issued by Rightmove, basically says that around November 2021, the average monthly amount spent on a first-time buyer home was £850 a month. That's with a 10% deposit. And by July of 23, that had reached £1,300 a month. So Bank of England base rate increase is having a huge effect. It hasn't quite doubled the average mortgage on a first-time buyer home, but it's getting towards that. So lots of those buyers are downsizing. Maybe previously they were looking to buy maybe something of 300,000. Now they're looking to buy something of say 250 or 200,000 because affordability is so stretched. Are we seeing big repossessions? Not really. Insolvencies and repossessions, they've ticked up a little bit. I had a look at the graph, I think it was last month, and it had gone up slightly, but the reality is the transmission mechanism from base rate changes and the way that transmits into the monthly payment that homeowners and landlords are paying is much, much different to what it was, say, in the late 80s when interest rates last sort of went up at such a great pace. It's changed a lot. So although base rate has gone up over 10 times, over 1,000%, the speed at which that transmits has changed massively. It's slowed down, and the effect it's having on people is much less than you would have expected. Why is that? Well, the first reason is a lot more people are on fixed rate mortgages now. So that doesn't necessarily break the link, but it delays the point at which people are going to have a massive increase in their mortgage payment. There's about 110,000 people a month coming off fixed rates at the moment. So you can imagine these interest rate rises are going to bite those people and reduce their spending elsewhere and therefore control inflation, but it's going to take longer. Second thing is people who can't afford to pay their mortgages are being encouraged to contact their mortgage lenders. The FCA and the government have been all over the lenders, and they're telling them to put people on interest only now, come off capital repayment, to extend the mortgage term, and they're probably not going to start any repossession proceedings for a lot longer. There's certainly a sort of 12-month grace period. So I think this is quite different to what we saw in the late 80s, and because of that, repossessions are still very, very low. The house price index for July for Zoopla, Rightmove and Halifax again is down. What does this mean for you? Well, it means that properties are cheaper. It means that you're able to go out there and negotiate a little bit harder. People are certainly concerned about further price drops. It's in the media a lot. So I think you're going to be able to push and get more deals and get better deals at the moment. You have a greater ability to do those sorts of deals in a down market like we're in now. Also in the news at the moment is Michael Gove's announcement on new permitted development rights, a new planning super squad that's going to go around and give local councils support, and various other things that he said about how the government's going to get developers building and increase the housing supply. If you think back to around 2017, I think we've delivered something like 170,000 houses per annum on average. The target was 300,000. They're way off, way off the target. We've heard lots of things like this before. Boris was on about Build Back Better. Theresa May had a similar sort of rhetoric. I'm not sure that most of what they say in this arena, if it's generic, can be taken particularly seriously, unless there are tangible changes that they talk about that you can actually sort of pick up and use. This planning super squad, I think that we're going to put 20 million aside for it. It's a drop in the ocean. A lot of this is to create headlines rather than to make any meaningful change. However, there are going to be some changes to the permitted development right regime. About 94,000 homes have been delivered using permitted development rights. Obviously, we had office to residential initially. Then it moved on to retail, agricultural, and now they are talking about having reduced the maximum floor space limit, especially on offices. They put a cap on it of 1,500 square metres. They're now talking about going back up to 3,000 square metres, which is a positive change. 3,000 square metres would be a building of around 30,000 square foot. Might get you 50 flats. There's still the minimum size of 37 square metres per flat in there. But that is a benefit that I can see. They are talking about using local design codes for external changes, because obviously when you put your permitted development application in, that only deals with the internals. Often you've got to put a planning application in to make external changes. So hopefully that will reduce the routes that councils have got to refuse your planning application on the basis that they don't want the whole scheme. Now, this is quite a big change. They're going to include hotels that can be converted into C3, into residential property as well, boarding houses and guest houses. So you're going to be able to use permitted development rights to convert those, which is very useful. And another change is Class G with betting offices and payday loans. They will be within the permitted development regime, and you'll be able to go up to 300 square metres. So you'd be going from 150 square metres to 300 under these new changes. And instead of being a maximum of 2 flats, you will be able to go to 4 flats. And I think that will apply to retail as well. So there are some definite benefits in there. This is not done yet. It's under consultation, but I suspect that it will become law and you will be able to utilise these rights. Some of you will have been converting agricultural buildings under Class Q. You're now going to be able to go up to, they're saying, between 100 to 150 square metres per house and up to 10 houses. So that could be a positive change. Again, this is under consultation, so it's not set in stone yet. And they're also saying that they may extend this to buildings that are not used for a solely agricultural use, but that have some other maybe ancillary use as well, which is very useful. So if you're looking at utilising some of these permitted development rights through commercial conversions, I would keep an eye on the .gov website, because the consultation's on there at the moment. Once that comes to an end, you'll probably see more press releases from them, and it probably won't take that long before they start introducing them. It'll be months, I mean it could be next year, but once that goes onto their website, then you can start making the applications, put your prior approvals in to convert those buildings. So I've been given something here which is, to my mind, absolutely wonderful. Many of you will have had great pain when purchasing properties, refinancing properties, especially with leasehold flats. Transactions can take many months. I think the longest one I've had has taken 2 years because of legal issues. Paperwork missing, deeds that might be missing, looking for information which is not based at the land registry, especially with flats. You have to make inquiries of the freeholder and the management company, and it makes the whole process quite painful. So many times people have said to me, surely there should be blockchain for house purchasing. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be held within the blockchains, but what you need to do is digitise all of those elements and then put them into the register. Surely that's going to make the purchase process so much quicker. In fact, if you could digitise almost everything. Surely this could all get done in a matter of days. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I've just been past this new digital property market steering group formed to drive crucial digital transformation in the land and property market paper. This is on the gov.uk website, so this might be the solution. So reading through this steering committee, there are lots of members in there: the Law Society, the Conveyancing Association, Chartered Institute of Legal Executives, Property Mark, the Land Registry, UK Finance, Building Societies Association. And what they're saying is, although there's no silver bullet, digitisation will be transformative in this work, especially in relation to ID, digital deeds, digital registration, and providing important information to consumers about both the process and the property at an early stage. Well, this sounds absolutely wonderful. There's going to be a joint government and industry launch event with the theme Digital Property Market in London on the 12th of September, and it's going to bring together all of these leaders, 300 guests from the industry. So this sounds great. Let's hope they actually do it. This has come out from the Land Registry. It's on the gov.uk website, DPMSG, which is Digital Property Market Steering Group. Let's hope they get on and do it and don't just talk about it. Obviously, this is going to take a number of years. It's massively complex, and I would have thought a little bit like when they set the Land Registry up, there is so much information to get uploaded on there. But, you know, all they need to do, once they've got the framework running, which I'm sure is a huge task, all that will happen, I presume, is that every time there is a transaction, the solicitor, the conveyancer, the Land Registry, at that point will take all the paperwork in and digitise it so that future transactions are already stored on the system and will become much, much quicker. I think that's what seemed to happen with the Land Registry. So the properties and the titles that are not subject to this will just be the ones that haven't transacted in the last few years. So the average person lives in their house in the United Kingdom for 7 years. You would imagine that sort of after 7 years, a lot of properties will be on this system once they've set it up. Which will be a massive benefit to all of us. So to summarise, I think house prices they'll probably drop 10-15% in a lot of areas. The indices are maybe showing a drop of maybe 3 to 4% as an average across all property types, but they're always lagged, and I'm not sure at the coalface they represent what's actually happening on the ground. Rightmove are saying that affordability has basically reduced hugely, which has got to be true. About $1,300 a month now for a average first-time buyer mortgage versus $850 in November 2021, which is a huge shift. Base rate's gone up 10 times. It's gone up over 1,000%, which has got to have a huge impact. New permitted development rights, which are quite beneficial if you're going to be converting buildings, doing your commercial conversions. Looks like the sizing is, you're going to be able to do buildings of double the size, double the amount of flats that you could before. They're going to include hotels, and it looks like agricultural buildings are going to become easier to convert, and you're going to be able to do bigger houses from them and more of them, which is a major benefit. And finally, there's DPMSG, which is digitising property market transactions, taking lots and lots of that paperwork, putting it into the online space, probably into the Land Registry, to speed up transactions, which to me is a massively beneficial thing. So if you've enjoyed this and you want to get more out of property investment, just have a look at my 42 tip guide below in the link. This has been Mark Homer. Make sure you like, subscribe and hit the notification bell, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.